Hey there, this week on the show, we want to take a look at one of the most powerful, prolific, and successful business models there are in the world. I'm talking, of course, about franchising. Franchising is an incredibly popular means for people to get into business and to grow business empires. According to a survey that was done in 2016 by Franchising Australia, there are over 1,100 different franchise systems operating in Australia alone, and they represent over 80,000 franchisees. Collectively, they produce over $144 billion for the economy and employ nearly 500,000 people. So there's clearly something going on for this sector to continue to thrive and grow, and I wanted to understand what it was. So I've invited on an award-winning franchisee to take a look inside a franchise to understand why they got involved and what is the secret to success in a franchise. So whether you're someone who's running a business and thinking about the fact that you might like to franchise what you're doing, or that you're simply thinking about getting into business and that a franchise might be the perfect way for you to get started, or you're simply looking for some best practice strategies to help grow your small but mighty business, we got something for everybody in this episode. So let's get to it. But first, let's get someone to play that intro.
Welcome to the Marketers Club podcast, the show all about helping you work smarter, earn more, and accelerate your success. And now, here's your host, Paul McCarthy.
So welcome to episode 76 of the Marketers Club podcast. I am your host, Paul McCarthy, and I'm here to help you market your talent so you can earn what you're worth and ultimately make more of a difference in the world. Hey, it's great to have your company again for another episode. And this week, we're taking a dive into the world of franchising to understand what does it mean to get involved in a franchise. Maybe you contemplated the idea of creating a franchise around your business, thinking about, is that a way to really scale it and make it grow? It's certainly a thing that attracts a lot of people to franchises, is the idea that it gives them scalability, that they could build something, but it also gives them a foundation, a structure, a formula, a system to follow that many people, when they're entering business, feel a lot more comfortable about rather than starting from scratch. So I wanted to understand the pros and cons of being a franchisee. So I've asked Chris Pryor, who's an award-winning franchisee with his franchise group, TopSnap, to come on and share some insights about what it's been like to grow a franchise business. Obviously, you're operating a business inside a business. A franchisor wants to be able to generate revenue and income, as does the franchisee. So you're kind of working in tandem with this business inside a business. So I was curious to understand exactly how it all worked. And I think some of the insights that Chris shares in this episode are going to be valuable regardless of whether you ever intend to franchise, whether you're thinking about buying a franchise, or simply want some ideas to help your business grow. There's some great stuff for you in here. So I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. Let's dive into my conversation with Chris Pryor. So Chris Pryor, welcome to the Marketers Club podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here.
Well, I was fascinated to have a chat with somebody about franchising and to see it from the inside as a franchisee. Now, you are a successful franchisee in a group called TopSnap. So maybe we can just start there for people. What is TopSnap and what do you do in your franchise?
Yeah, so TopSnap, I'm a photographer and we are architectural and property photographers. So work predominantly with real estate agents and offering them a full range of services, photography, floor plan, virtual tours, videos, et cetera, for all the marketing collateral that they need to list a property. Now,
I've invited you on, Chris. You are the current franchisee of the year for your franchise groups, TopSnap. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But I guess if we wind the clock back for a moment, back to 2017, I believe it was when you started. So
Yep.
What was it for you that, how did you come to the decision that I want to get into business and I'm going to get into a franchise as opposed to start your own thing? So tell us a little bit about that journey and how that decision was made.
Yeah, so I guess I was lucky in a way that I had a really long lead up to knowing that my current role was being phased out. So I had about 12 months from the point when it was clear that position was going to no longer exist to when I had to You go out there and find something else to do. And I've been in franchise world quite a few times before, never as an owner, as an employee, but I knew the systems quite well. So it was always on my hit list to go out there and have a look at franchises. I think that they bring a lot of support to the party, like going from earning a wage to being a business owner is quite a scary thing. So being able to do that with a safety blanket essentially was very enticing for me.
I think you're right. It is a scary jump for anybody, and as a lot of listeners will be people who have either just made that jump or are maybe thinking about making the jump. And I'm sure one of the reasons that Australia is such a franchised nation is that we do like that sense of comfort that comes with joining an established entity that's got some frameworks and structures and things for us to follow. You've made that decision, you've jumped in, and obviously you've done it very successfully to be franchisee of the year this year. You've been a marketer of the year. Let's talk about some of the strategies, I guess, some of the things that you've done, and keeping in mind we're talking about doing it over one of the most difficult periods that we've ever had in business across the board, whether you're a franchisee or not. So you've had some successes there. So what are some of the things you've done over the past year to be successful in your business?
I think you've got to come at it with the right mindset. So franchising is a bit of an odd beast in that, you're the business owner, your name's on the door, so to speak, and yet you're also answerable to someone else at the same time. So you've got to understand that from the beginning and come into it with a view that this is a partnership. So you've got to work together for the common goal. But also, I guess, it probably starts before you even buy into the franchise. So there's a whole podcast purely on buying the right franchise for you, but understanding when you buy into the franchise, what it is you're buying, why are you buying into it, making sure that they keep their end of the bargain in terms of living up to that. But then also you're not unrealistic. So in franchise world, McDonald's is a very easy example because they're so successful. But a great example with McDonald's is you wouldn't buy into a McDonald's franchise and then go and have a chat to the franchisor and say, hey, how about adding tomato to the Big Mac? Because it's never going to happen. That's their golden goose. They're never going to play with it. But if you look at once again, McDonald's is the example. In the mid-90s, right here in Melbourne, one of the franchisors noticed that mums and dads were coming in and buying, their kids a cheeseburger and chips and sitting there and not drinking or eating anything themselves. And it was from that observation that McCafe was born and is now a worldwide success. So being able to understand what the franchise is and what's never going to change, let's face it, but then also on the fringe, being able to come up with ideas to help the franchise grow as a whole.
So there's a line in the sand that anybody who steps into a franchise has to understand that, as you say, there are some elements that are fixed and they are these kind of key assets that aren't going to be adjusted, but there is scope for you to potentially innovate or bring other things to the table, bring that to the franchisor and say, listen, I think there's an opportunity here for us as a business and as a group. So over the course of this past year or so, what are some of the strategies that you've put in place that you've seen have been successful with your client base and keeping them moving and being able to continue to win business?
Especially over COVID, but in general in business, one of the keys I think to how we run here is our alliance partners. We put a lot of time into, alliance or, referral partners, both quite structured and also non-structured. Being in small business is quite a small and scary place. I'm quite amazed now that I'm in this world, the amount of people that are out there that are genuinely able to help and willing to help, and having a good base of referral partners has been key, even just as friendship, even as business owners. But without question, the last 18 months, most of our growth has come from our referral partners and helping each other out.
So tell me a little bit about that, Chris, for you. How do you go about finding or establishing a referral partner? What does that look like to you?
Well, first of all, in a structured fashion, I'm a member of BNI and have been for about 2 years now. I think BNI is a fantastic organisation, I guess you'd call it. It is a franchise itself, but it's a great way to meet like-minded business people and share referrals around. We've got a lot of work through BNI and also given a lot of work through BNI. But on the non-structured side, try and find people that are, I guess, in the same industry. So for us as photographers, we look at, signboard suppliers, we look at staging companies, anyone that deals in the same circles that we deal in. It's great to understand their business and how they operate. You can learn a hell of a lot from that. But then also, whenever we're out there on the hustings, we've got them front of mind, and I'm sure they've got us front of mind as well.
Well, I think that's a great piece of advice. I think for any business, whether you're a franchisee or any business owner, to sit down and make a list of all the organisations that touch the same customer base, that they're working, but they're non-competitive. They're not you're not trying to get the customer for the same reason, but that we can build a base of a circle of influence to do that. For those people who aren't familiar with BNI, just fill people in on what BNI is. So obviously I'm aware of them. I've had the good fortune to speak at many BNI conferences and do lots of work across the network. And I agree, I think they're a fantastic group. But so it stands for Business Network International. But just to explain how it works so that people understand what BNI is.
So essentially, it's a weekly meeting. We meet. Well, we haven't for about a year now, but we usually meet. We meet in person. We've been doing it over Zoom for the last little while, but we usually meet in person, have a coffee and a breakfast. It's a very structured platform, which is what I liked about it. The first time you turn up and I was like a deer in headlights and didn't exactly know what was going on and why things were happening. But on my second and third visit, it all did make sense. Everything that is done for a reason, and it works. Essentially, a group of, as I said, like-minded business people get together and help grow each other's business.
Structured networking. So that's great. But I think anyone inside the BNI organisation would agree that success within that group is probably the same thing that's going to bring success to you as a franchisee. And that is really having an attitude of giving and being, a great giver first, rather than just be a taker, so that you're looking to make sure that everyone's getting a win from it rather than just going in and filling your own coffers. I think that's the starting point of success.
The BNI catchphrase is "givers gain," and that is absolutely true. That you've got to be out there helping others, and then it just comes to you in return in time.
Yeah, so we've certainly, and I'll put a link in the show notes to one of the BNI directors who runs one of the areas here in Melbourne, an episode that we recorded with Braith some time back in the show notes here for people to connect with his ideas on networking and connecting and doing it effectively as well. So, all right, so you've got this networks, you're building relationships and alliances, and that's proved to be a bit of a godsend through this slow period.
Absolutely.
What are some of the other maybe client-facing strategies? What other things have you been able to do as a franchisee that you've seen sort of reap benefits for you over the course of the last year or two?
Yeah, Paul. So I'm a mad keen fisherman. When I'm in my spare time, that's where I like to spend most of it. And there's an old fishing saying that it's the best time to catch a fish is within 10 minutes of catching a fish. And that is equally true for sales. Being able to, whenever I make a sale or have a great connection, being able to stop and think about what's happened, why it's happened, and how I can leverage that sale. For example, if I had to sell to you, Paul, I'd try and understand the marketer's network. Who else within that organisation is there that I could potentially use my services, and could I use you to help me introduce me to those? Another great example was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was in a sales call, sitting down with 3 agents, and just as a part of the chat that we were having, a pain point sort of reared its head. And I've been doing this for a few years now, and I'd never even considered that to be a pain point. No one had ever articulated it to me as a pain point. And I was driving away from that meeting thinking, okay, so how do I now leverage this piece of information? Is there any of my other customers that are feeling this that haven't told me about it? Are there any potential clients in my sales funnel that I can sort of talk to about this, or is it such a thing that should I be adding it to my presentation? Is it that powerful? So being able to really think and go back and understand what's happened, why it's happened, and how you can leverage that moving forward, I think is quite powerful.
And I think it's a great insight, Chris, and a great tip for all of us, that if we are listening carefully to our audience, we're listening to our clients about the things that are troubling them, and that's the launch point of being able to find a solution for them. And as you say, a smart move then is to go, okay, well, if this group has got that pain, there's a good chance a big proportion of my audience is feeling the same thing. When you work in a narrow band, that's the likelihood. So it's a great way to be able to deliver more value to people and help your clients to enjoy greater success, which is obviously what our aim is with all of the work that we do, that we're trying to help them achieve greater success. In terms of being a franchisee, if people are thinking about stepping into a franchise, whether it's TopSnap or any franchise, you've referenced McDonald's, probably one of the world's greatest or best known franchises. But if you're thinking about that, what are some of the things I need to think about before I step in? How do I ensure it's going to be successful for me and that I don't start on the wrong foot?
I think you've got to be really honest with yourself and ask why you're joining a franchise. What is it that they're giving you that either you can't bring to the table yourself, or that you're willing to pay for to get them to do? Because at the end of the day, they're there to make money just as you are. So understanding exactly why you're wanting to be part of this franchise network, I think is really key, and being clear about that. That's the most important part. And then, once you've decided that it's the right franchise for you, I'd be getting out there and ringing other franchise members, obviously talking to the franchisor as well, but trying to understand what a normal business within that franchise looks like. Is it high volume, low margin? Is it what is it that franchise usually produces? And if that's what if you're comfortable with what it with what that is that what you actually want to do?
Fantastic. And I think these are great questions for people as they're contemplating whether stepping into franchise land is right for them. And I think it's good to do some due diligence, really check it out, make sure that you're clear on your reasons. And as you say, understand that you're a business within a business. They too have to be profitable. Otherwise, no one's going to get through it. And they've got to make money as well as you. So making sure that the model makes sense. If there is just one or two things that you think have been the key to your success so far in the journey you've been on, what would you say they are? What are a couple of things that you think you've done particularly well within your franchise group that have really empowered your business to step up and achieve success?
I think communication's key. I've never met too many franchisors that are, ringing constantly and asking how you're going and how can they help. But having said that, every single one I've ever known has been more than happy to take the phone call and have a chat if you're the one that's actually ringing them and reaching out. Yeah, as I said, communicate with them, be open with them, be honest with them, show them what your plan is. And then obviously within the perimeters of what they allow, it's surprising to me the amount of times that I've done that, and they've been either okay with it or they've been said, okay, this has been tried in the past. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? I mean, as I said, communication is absolutely key to a strong relationship and a strong partnership within a franchise. Come from the franchisor, that's come from the franchisee, not the franchisor.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that we have to be proactive. And I think it lends to a point that I've seen many, many times. I've worked with lots of franchise groups over the years. And one of the first stumbling blocks that I see is many franchisees have come into business, and often it's their first time running their own business, and they've come straight out of being an employee for someone. And it can take some time. And I see this not only with people in franchises, but just in business in general, when they start off, that they still carry with them, if you like, an employee mentality. They haven't yet stepped into being an entrepreneur, really owning that. And certainly gets kind of highlighted in a franchise environment where some people can be waiting for the franchisor to make it happen for them. Now, you've been incredibly proactive in what you're doing, and I have no doubt that that's part of the success that you're enjoying. But how was it for you, or what have you done to step yourself out of having an employee mindset and into having an entrepreneurial mindset?
That's a good question. Well, the start of that was actually a conversation I had with my accountant even before I bought into TopSnap. And he literally stopped me talking mid-sentence and gave me a copy of the book, The E-Myth Revisited, and said, go and read this and don't even bother chatting to me until you've read it, and come back and we'll talk about it then. It is a mindset of being a business owner, of having a scalable business, speaking specifically about TopSnap for a minute. But the reason that we did buy into TopSnap was that it was, eminently scalable. I'm sure if anyone's been listening to your podcast, Paul, they will be, quite in tune with the idea of roadie time. Mm-hmm. A lot of the roadie time that was taken up if we were to go and do this ourselves is TopSnap takes that responsibility off our hands.
So that's a great point, Chris. I mean, so roadie time is obviously something that I talk about a lot, that a lot of business owners spend a lot of their energy in the low level tasks. They're doing the grunt work of their business. Now, anyone who starts a business has to do that grunt work. That's kind of the nature of getting going. But we do need to get ourselves kind of more into that rock star zone more often, which is our money making zone, our thinking more entrepreneurial, and also thinking about the things that drive the revenue of our business. So that is a habit that we have to form, to shake off employee, go and do the easy things, not necessarily, sometimes we've got to do the hard things. But if we're waiting, and I think that's the dual edge, if you like, of a franchise, is sometimes the franchisee is waiting for the franchisor to step into that breach, if you like, and tell them and help them be the rock star instead of just stepping up. So for you, if you've come to realize and stopped yourself maybe from dropping into roadie time and kept yourself, so what are the things that you know you need to keep your focus on? What drives your business if you can keep your attention on what?
Yeah, so I heard a saying many years ago, which stays with me today, is you've got to build the well before you can fill the well. And being able to build the business, and for us, that's staff and that's clients and that's, all those things that we need to grow. Everything needs to be in place before we start bringing on new clients. So having employees, that in itself is quite a scary thing to do, but it's a good kick up the backside as well when you're sitting there paying people to work for you, that that you need to go out there and and fill those potential jobs so that they can go out there and do the roadie time on your behalf so you can make some money. I mean, and being part of those alliance networks, I think as well, being out there every day, surrounding yourself with successful businesses, understanding how they operate, I guess surrounding yourself with successful people, I think is a large part of it as well.
I agree. I mean, one of the reasons we run mastermind programs, have entrepreneurs creating little cohorts and working together, are for some of the benefits that people would get in a franchise. You have a network of other franchisees, you can talk, you can share, you can get insights from them about what's working, what's not. This all helps to accelerate our journey, helps us to make fewer mistakes and go towards success quicker. You have a franchisor who you can talk to, who can say, look, we've tried those things, you can certainly try them if you want, but this is what we've found in the past. So we can accelerate through the learning of what other people have gone through. That's the great thing. When entrepreneurs clustered together, they can definitely help each other. And people like Napoleon Hill with Think and Grow Rich, and Michael Gerber, as you mentioned, with the E-Myth, a fantastic book, and one I'd certainly encourage any entrepreneur to read, whether they're starting a business or have been in it for a while. Something I encourage all of my mastermind clients to do is create a little sign, just a post-it note, whatever it is, stick it up next to your desk, which simply says, what have you done to generate money today? And if we can keep bringing our focus back to our revenue production activity, am I taking care of the things that are actually growing my business and not just getting caught up in all of the other things that are important, but they can easily distract you from the things that actually get you growing. And I think, as I say, the Achilles heel for many people in a franchise is that they then extend that out to waiting for somebody else to do it, being the franchisor for them. So you've proven that you don't have to wait for anyone to do it for you. Get out, you make it happen, and you've been enjoying great success. Good on you, Chris. Great to spend a little time. But something we wanted to do that was a little bit different to most of our other episodes. We wanted us to look inside a franchise for people that may be looking at that pathway as a business opportunity, because we're here to support anybody who's running any type of business to accelerate their growth. And I think that's some really great insights you've shared with us today about your journey. Congratulations on all the success you've had, and may it long continue for you, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
So I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Chris Pryor. I think there was lots of great stuff in there for all of us to pay attention to. My experience of working with many franchisees, as well as thousands and thousands of business owners in general, is that success really starts with a shift in mindset. And many people come into business still holding on to what I call that employee mindset. And we have to move to a more entrepreneurial way of thinking. This is something that's been, repeated by many people. Certainly not something that I originated this idea, but it's so vitally important to your success that you've got the right mindset as you drive a business. And certainly one of the traps that franchisees can fall into is really thinking about it as they've bought themselves a job and they're waiting for a franchisor, I should say, to make things happen for them. But that's not the reality. We always, even if we're buying a franchise, still have to get out there and make it happen. And that's why your marketing and your energies in terms of creating opportunities for your business are so important, and why that needs to be a high priority activity. Chris gave us some great tips about things like your networks, your alliance partners, building these relationships. These are vital to any business. He shared with us the idea of really listening to your customer and identifying that when a customer reflects a pain point that you'd never even considered, that now you have a new thing to go and offer to all of your customers. To really see the opportunities that are sitting around you. I thought that reflection of the McDonald's McCafe solution, which was founded here in Australia, was really about paying attention to what's happening in your business right now, that if you added something else, that people would stick around longer, they would buy more from you. And I think that was a great final tip from Chris, was the idea of leveraging every sale you make. When you've made a sale, that is the best time to start thinking about how you can service that customer even more. What else can you offer them? Because the most likely person to buy from you is someone who already has. So some great tips in there. Again, regardless of whether you're a franchisee, franchisor, planning to do either of those things, or simply want to drive your business success. There's some real gold in there for all of us to go away and start applying to get better results in our business. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, that you got plenty of good ideas from it that you can now go away and implement into your business. And obviously that is the key. We provide you each and every week with as many tips and ideas as we can to help fuel your innovations and ideas in your business. But ultimately, it's up to you to now go and put them into place, because that's where the results will come from. So until we speak again, I wish you all the very, very best of luck with your businesses, but much, much more importantly, with your lives. Take care. Bye for now.